In WA, the number of fine defaulters going to prison has blown out since stringent new provisions for non-payment of fines was introduced in 2009. In 2008, the number of fine defaulters in prison was just 194. By 2013, this figure had grown to 1,318, 590 of whom were Aboriginal. 1 in 3 women entering prison were doing nothing more than paying off a fine. This tragically came to public attention last year when a young Aboriginal woman died in a South Hedland prison cell where she had been spent for not paying a fine of less than $1,000. Fortunately, we have seen some clawback of the position, but still, last year 782 people went to prison in Western Australia for fine default, so clearly it is still a problem. Now, of course, there has to be consequences in relation to the non-payment of fine. However, the current situation is not sustainable. It is normalising imprisonment for many Aboriginal people, impacting on their sense of identity within the community. And I know from personal experience that cutting out fines can be an attractive option if you are on a low income. I recall getting a fine for non-voting in the daylight saving referendum when I was a student. I hadn't known about the fine and it had accumulated in size. And I seriously considered the possibility of going to bandy up for a day or two until I thought about those scenes from Prisoner and decided against it. But this approach is also very costly for the taxpayer. In 2013, it cost the government in WA $2.4 million jailing fine defaulters. This change in policy, it must be point out, has not actually seen a decrease in the total number of outstanding fines, and indeed the amount outstanding in fines has continued to increase between 2008 and 2013. There has to be a better way. We need to consider a plan that would allow fines to be collected in a sustainable way from income or social security in much the same way that we do with child support payments and university debts. This policy, of course, would apply to the entire community. Earlier this month, I was contacted by ANU's Dr. Bruce Chapman, who has extensive experience in this area. He is advocating a system similar to HECS, which he helped devise, to help fine defaulters repay their debts and stay out of jail. Dr. Chapman's proposal would set a very low threshold for repayments, but would only take a small amount of each fine defaulter's weekly pay, as little as $8. There is already a voluntary system in place through Centrelink that utilises a similar system. Indeed, in 2012-13, 177,000 people used the Centrelink service to pay court fines. The question is whether or not this service could be made compulsory. A set of scheduled payments would provide for a consumption of a smoothing effect of fine defaulters, offering a stable and sustainable way of paying their debts. I want to acknowledge the work of State Shadow Corrective Service Minister Paul Papalia, who's written an excellent discussion paper on how poverty drives imprisonment. He proposes, amongst other things, a better supervised program of community service obligation, and I agree that that must be part of the solution. However, Dr. Chapman's idea of a compulsory deduction through tax and Centrelink system is important to explore. It would help fines to be paid back early before huge liabilities are accumulated. And I point out that the Royal Commission to Aboriginal Deaths in Custody in 1987 recommended imprisonment only be utilised as a last resort. It is clear that this recommendation was not heeded, to the detriment of Aboriginal people and the wider community. We have an opportunity here to implement a system that would help get people out of jail, get money paid back to the state, and help close that gap between the incarceration rates between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. So next month we are setting up a round table in Perth to explore these options further. We have to move away from the Dickensian days of debtors' prisons.